Gendrian, founder of AtoZ Communications, and this is the Brand Stories podcast. This is where we discuss everything from marketing, public relations, branding, everything in between. This week, I'm very excited to have Snappy Kraken's co-founder, Angel Gonzalez, on the podcast. First of all, he's a brilliant mind, so if you ever get the opportunity to pick his brain a little bit, you should do so. Secondly, it was a great conversation about everything from how AI should be utilized in financial advisor content to how advisors can stand out in a crowded market. Everyone should be super duper excited that we have Angel Gonzalez of Snappy Kraken, as you can see, here with us today. So having worked with you back when I was at Street Cred, I felt like every single meeting that we had, I got more intelligent just listening to you. So if that doesn't happen for everybody else, I don't know what's going on.
Well, hey, I'm very flattered about that. I've never had a dull conversation with you. So it's always been high energy. It's always been fun chatting with you. And I'm happy to be spending some time with you today.
Well, likewise. Thank you.
Yeah.
So my first question for you is what your favorite brand is and why.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to unpack a few things because I try not to go with any knee-jerk reactions because I'm sure there's the big companies and I love them. There's the legendary brands that we all know and love and that we have studied to death and we try to emulate and we want just a fraction of their success in our bank accounts. I don't really have favorite brands. I know I'm not trying to be one of those like, oh, I don't have a TV type of guys. But I do try to learn from different brands. And there's different brands that I might read about, that I might study about, and I might try to pull one little lesson from. How much have you heard about Liquid Death?
So I only got to know them not this summer, last summer, being at a concert and seeing somebody and I was like, is that an alcoholic beverage? Is it not? Yeah.
So that's really interesting because a lot of the stuff that I've read about Liquid Death focuses on how much they stood out from water and or bottled water. And right. How edgy they were and how intense they were. And it was really, really focusing on differentiation and being super edgy and standing out from the pack. But what I haven't seen a lot of is any thoughts or any writing on what did they do to conform? In what ways did they achieve success or build up their brand by blending in? I was at a concert a couple weeks ago too, out in Nashville, and I'm walking by some of the drink carts and I see a canned margarita, a canned pina colada. I see Wicked Weed beer. And then next to that, I see a Liquid Death. And lo and behold, it's not in a ribbed bottle, plastic bottle. It's in a tall boy can. And to me, it was blending in with the other choices. It's a different option. It's water, but it didn't look lame as in like a plastic bottle that you're going to have to like unscrew and then maybe cap it again after you're drinking. And then I saw some of the advertisements around the venue. They'd show like these pretty edgy brands leading up to the show, advertising different concerts coming up. And then you see a Liquid Death brand and it looked like it was all part of the same family. So I think about that. Like, what is it that I can learn about a brand and what can I extrapolate from that others are talking about, that others have noticed? But what is the opposite? What is the opposite lesson? And is there a broader lesson that I can learn by going in a completely different direction? And then what could I learn for myself and my brand or any particular company that I may be trying to help? So my takeaway there would be like, okay, great. Let's focus on some differentiators. What do we want to stand apart from? But what family do we want to conform with or be associated with similarly? So back to Liquid Death, rather than taking a cue from other water brands, Fiji and like Evian and yeah, all these other water brands. Oh, how can we take a cue from alcoholic beverages, from beer companies, from edgy rock and roll and shows?
Yeah, I love that. So I would be curious if you feel like you could apply the Liquid Death scenario in financial advice, and to what extent you feel like then people should be aiming not to conform and not be part of that sea of sameness versus do they need to find somebody else? Like you're saying, I don't know what the financial advisor equivalent to beer is, but that might work for them, or maybe it doesn't.
Well, here's a few high-level ways that I would think about it. One, the worst way to think about it would be at the superficial level and going, oh, wow, they're edgy. I should be edgy too. Yeah, I should go on video and drop a bunch of F-bombs, even if that's not true to me. I think that's the wrong lesson to take. I've always equated that to you seeing a golf cart that has like a GT like racing stripe on it, and you're like, oh, I guess that's gonna go just as fast as a regular muscle car because it has that stripe. Or anything that I can put that stripe on is going to go really fast. No, that's not really how physics works. That's taking the wrong lesson. You don't want to just judge something by the paint job and think that giving yourself that paint job is going to give you all the same attributes, all the same traits, all the same strengths and abilities. Like, you got to look under the surface. What's the engine? So when I would if I were to look at a brand like Liquid Death, I would just start asking myself strategic questions, because that's what strategy is all about. It's like, let's ask ourselves deep, important questions about where are we going to win? How are we going to win? I would think about, what is it about the industry? What is it that I notice with my competitors that I feel is a disservice, that I feel is unjust? What is it, if I put myself in the shoes of the clients that I'm trying to serve, what is their experience like? What kinds of emails are they receiving? What kinds of content are they consuming? What are they frustrated with? What are beliefs they have about me and my profession and my industry that I think are incorrect, that I want to put my foot down and I want to yell from the rooftops, and I want to go in a contrarian way? All these things that I absolutely disagree with. And I would start making a list of those things and start incorporating that into content, into the voice, style, and tone, and just start airing. I wouldn't go on social media and complain and be self-righteous, because you never want to blame your market or your customers. There's always a villain. Yeah. So whether there's something they're doing that you think is dumb or ill-conceived, you want to find someone else to blame, because there's some other misconception that has been fed to them, some lie that has been, some noise that has gone their way, and you want to help clear up the air. So these are all the things that I would talk about for a while and just list out. For advisors, my recommendation would be, you could do this a couple ways. You can talk to a smart friend. You can talk to someone like you, Allie, talk to someone else in the industry at a conference. You can go on social media, look through the news feed. If you want to talk about a sea of sameness, go through the news feed and start scrolling down, and you will notice things. Once you have that frame, once you have that perspective, like, what is it that I'm upset about? What is it that grinds my gears? Let me just start taking note of that. And then pop up the audio recorder on your phone and just let it rip. Like, why don't you rant for a little bit? This can be a safe space where you get all your thoughts down, where you get everything you either frustrated with or think should change. Just get it all out, and then you can work with that and use it as a leading activity so that it can influence your business, your content, the way that you treat your clients, your prospects. I like that approach, thinking from the beginning on what you want to do differently, rather than throwing a bunch of stuff on the wall, rather than creating all sorts of activity and noise over months and years, and then trying to take a look in the rearview mirror and then connect dots and then try to find, you're like hoping the brand or hoping your style will reveal itself to you. I find that if you can think more intentionally from the beginning, and you think about what is negotiable, what is non-negotiable, what do I want to stand for, how do I want to be honest and consistent, and who do I want to serve and how. When you do that stuff from the beginning, your brand, your messaging can be so much more powerful than you trying to make sense of a huge inconsistent body of work after the fact. Yeah. I don't know if you've experienced that with anyone you've worked with and seen some of those differences about intentionality versus like, let's just do a bunch of stuff and then it'll appear to us later.
In the PR world, it seems like if you go in with a plan, to your point, if you're just trying to like, oh, we need to announce something, let's just make it happen. No, let's go in and understand we want to send it out a few days before. This is the best day because the next day is going to be a conference that everybody's going to, and they're going to be on a plane. And all these things have to get taken into account versus just chucking something out and saying, whatever, let's just hope for the best.
Right. I'm going to say something that sounds a little bit contradictory, though, because I think one thing that holds people back is that they look for a right answer.
Yeah.
They look for a precise answer, and I think that could lead you to analysis paralysis. You're looking for this right answer, you're looking for the correct binary answer, whereas the helpful answer could have led you to take action, which could have led you to reflect later and then figure out what you can iterate on. So I know all that sounds completely contradictory to what I said about being intentional, finding what to stand for. Now I'm saying on this other end, hey, don't wait for the right answer. Don't wait for the precise answer. Go with the helpful answer and reflect. But I think the common thread here that holds those two opposing viewpoints together is being thoughtful, being intentional, looking and taking stock of what it is that you're doing, what it is that you stand for, and what your point of view is, and then always continually working on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So from what I heard of what you were saying, it seems like you want people to really lean into who they are, which is interesting at a time when, so we've got AI arguably everywhere, or at least starting to penetrate everywhere. Do you feel like this is really the time, even though we've got all these tools and whatnot at our disposal, to lean into ourselves? Or how do you kind of like reconcile those two things happening at the same time?
I'm trying to figure out how to talk about that and avoiding. We should have a bingo card of like words like different buzzwords or different trends. Like, okay, how do we address this and put a new spin on authenticity, originality, right? It's like, oh man, we should have this bingo card or make a drinking game out of this. But
yeah, we could.
All right, so to unpack that, leaning into who you really are so that you can attract more of the people that you really want to serve and make a difference in their lives. And then reconciling that with, how do I do that when there's this tool out there that is trained to be highly prolific, super, super fast, so it's very tempting, but also trained on the corpus of knowledge of all of history that's available on all these servers and that is by default made to create average things and unoriginal things. Is that where you're going?
It is, because it seems like it's so easy now, as people are saying, you really got to get it out there and do your marketing. You should be doing thought leadership regularly. If an advisor is saying to themselves, like, yeah, and I also have to serve clients and I got to do the back end things and I got to keep the lights on, how am I going to have time for that? Look, there's ChatGPT. Why don't I just ChatGPT an article and move it right along?
Yeah, it's very tempting. For the first time in history, it's easier to create content than it is to consume it, because I can just create a 3-sentence prompt. I can just add one sentence and generate 30 pages of slop that would take me a lot longer to read than it took to originally prompt the machine in the first place. I don't think that's the answer. I don't think the answer is I'm being told. It sounds like that's a fear-based response of I'm serving clients, I'm busy, I'm doing all these administrative activities, I'm trying to do the best job that I can to fulfill the promises I'm making to my clients. Oh, I'm being told, and I believe that I should be plastering as much information, as much content on my website, on my social platforms, and I should be doing it 20 times a day. Why? Like, let's ask ourselves, again, going back to strategy, how do we want to win? Who do we want to serve? What 1 or 2 channels are we going to focus on? And then the other question is, how are we going to make it manageable for us? And do we have conviction that this is going to work with us? Do we also find whatever channel or medium we're going to focus on? Do we find that it comes easy to us? Is it fun to us? Or are we going to go in kicking and screaming? Because think about this, Allie. If you're going to go into something kicking and screaming, and like you're told to do video, and you're like, I hate video, I'm terrible at video, I hate my voice, I get really nervous. Honestly, do you think you're going to be as charismatic and as present and as convincing as possible? What if you were like, hey, I love writing, I have a point of view, I can dictate something, I can hand it off to someone to edit it and polish it for me and clean it up, or even use a little help from Grammarly and some AI just to clean up certain areas and find biases or inconsistencies and trim it down a little bit. Like that's way different. So for me, like, be really careful about what you feel compelled to do. Make sure that it's not fear-based, and question all the advice that's coming your way, all the noise that's coming your way about what you're supposed to be doing and how you should be anywhere and everywhere all the time. To me, that doesn't sound like something that's going to lead to consistency. And that's one of the big tenets of branding, right? It's that originality, that honesty and point of view, and then that consistency. If you're not going to be consistent and you're just going to lightly tread thread superficially across every channel and use and fill it with slop that isn't even your original thoughts, I think we've missed a huge point here. We've strayed from the originality, the honesty, the point of view, the insight, and the consistency. So it comes down to picking a game that you think you're going to win, that is worth playing in the first place, and that you can show up to day in and day out.
Absolutely. Very well said. So you guys at Snappy Kraken have always created, literally, it's award-winning content that just, when you see it, you're like, that's brilliant. I never would have equated estate planning and this, but now that you said it, it's so engaging. Of course I want to click it. It brought together powerful thoughts. It really helped move the advisor forward. How do you guys continue to do that and just do it so well?
Goes back to intention and defining that objective and that goal up front. So we're committed to creating useful content for groups of advisors, whether that's individual firms, large RIAs, big enterprises that serve networks of advisors. So the intention there from the beginning is, okay, these people need a range of communications. They need a range of marketing materials, whether that comes in the format or channel of emails, texts, social posts, landing pages, informational pages, gated content, blog posts, websites. Let's figure out, how do we make it original? How do we showcase the advisor and position them as a helpful guide? When it comes to like putting together our editorial calendar, there are ongoing topics. There are fixed topics that we could take that are like parent topics, like pre-retirement, accumulation, working professionals, near retirement or post-retirement, preservation. Those categories are fixed, but the way that you can provide content that appeals to people in those categories can be original. You find that, what's that unique angle? And how can we pair expected answers with something just a little bit unexpected and pair it with some type of unique imagery that actually makes it a little bit more compelling and easier to engage with. So I know those sound like a bunch of buzzwords, but it's something you have to challenge yourself on as you're going through this. Like, does this check those boxes? Is there something original about this? Does this make me interested to read it? Or am I just going, aha, good enough, it meets the word count, send it out? It has to be compelling, and you got to make sure it's well researched as well. And that's one of the big areas where AI has come in. Like, as soon as deep research was available across a lot of the major players, to me that was an amazing advantage. I always look for ways that something can be shortcutted to allow me to work even harder, longer, and go deeper. So in this case, I traded time that I would have used for doing a lot of manual research myself to using these tools to go wild and find 100 different sources, cross-check these different sources so that I could really get a solid piece of research and, manually, physically going through there, verifying, double checking that it was true, and then looking for the things that actually stand out, that got my attention, that weren't just the usual knee-jerk answers to things that are a little bit unoriginal.
Yeah, that's a great use case for AI, and you're absolutely right. That's a better way of deploying it than generating a whole article, slapping it up, and then being embarrassed that, God forbid, the next advisor also sent literally the exact same article. Now we look bad.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you're watching out for in 2026? Are there like things that you hate that you're concerned are going to continue, or just other trends that you're watching?
Yeah. So the big macro trend would be all this technology has come in, and like we just said earlier, it's never been easier to create stuff, to create something, to add to the noise. And what AI has done is it has raised the floor, it has raised the bar on what average is. So because it has raised the bar on what average is, and it has made it easier than ever to create average stuff. You and I don't have to be economists to know that when the cost goes down on creating something that we all perceive is in demand, more and more people are going to create it. So what does this mean? It means there's going to be a lot more noise. It's going to mean there's going to be a lot more content being created. Earlier this week, I got an invite to Sora. So OpenAI's basically TikTok competitor. It's just this endless feed of AI generated videos. And I've been been having a blast going through there because it took my face, took my voice, and I'm putting myself in all different scenarios. I'm trying to trick my parents. I'm like, oh, I wonder if my parents will believe that I was just at Mount Rushmore earlier this week and that I got pulled over by a cop who happened to be a sloth, an anthropomorphic sloth, and then a giraffe, like just wild stuff. So think about that. There's a lot more content. There's all these tools that are being put out that, to be honest, I don't think they have our best intentions. They're monetizing our attention. So there's going to be a lot more competition and a lot more noise going into the next quarter, going into the next year. So from a strategic standpoint, it's all about, okay, well, where are the wedges that we can go in? What is it that people are hungering for? Where is it that people are sick of all the processed, no calorie or 0 calorie content, so that we can give people something that's actually useful, that elevates them and helps them make great decisions that impact their lives.
Love it. Thank you for all of this. And we will have you on again, because actually I'm kind of intrigued by this whole bingo card / drinking game with buzzwords. I don't know if I really should do that. Maybe that's not a good idea, but you put it in my head, so I kind of like it. But I appreciate especially the thoughtful way that you suggest that we use AI in certain cases, and then understand that it's creating a lot more competition for trying to get people's attention. And hopefully at some point that abates, but I guess we'll see what happens.
Can I share with you something that I do with AI? Like, if you do decide that you are going to create content with AI, I really recommend using it to generate an outline first. And you don't just say, hey, write me a post on 401k on rollovers. It's going to give you something super average because it's trained on everything out there. So I would start with a pain point. Like, you could either take comments that were made in a client meeting or an email that you got with different frequently asked questions, or even look at a problem that was sent to one of the major publications like Market Watch. They always have like, hey, my 90-year-old father died and passed this down to me. This has now hit my bank account and I have this much money in my checking account. I don't know what to do with it. Right. Like, that's a starting point there. Start creating an actual outline and infuse your thoughts into it. And you can rant and ramble and just add how you would structure it, and then ask AI. This is your gym partner. This is your sparring partner. You can ask it, where is this inconsistent? How can we refine this? Can you point out some weaknesses? Do you see any bias in here? Do you see any circular reasoning? To me, that's where it's been really, really helpful, is in pointing out flaws and inconsistencies and areas of improvement, rather than spoon feeding me what I should be saying.
I love that. That is why, well, it's among the reasons that you are incredibly smart, and we are lucky to have you in the industry. So thank you.
All right. Well, I have very smart friends, and I try to have a lot of smart conversations and surround myself with people who know a lot, have a unique point of view. So thanks for that. And hey, and you're part of that group too.
Well, that's very kind. Best of luck to you guys at Snappy Kraken, and looking forward to seeing all the fabulous stuff that you guys have on tap for 2026.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allie.